If you are running an e-commerce brand and you are not using email marketing correctly, and you might think that you are, but you're probably not, then you're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month. And honestly, email marketing is not just about sending that newsletter once a week. It is so much more. So I want to go over in this entire video everything from A to Z, how simply it is to understand email marketing, get it right for your brand, and generate an extra $100,000 every single month for your brand without needing to spend more on ads. I'm going to walk you through everything: strategies, tools, step-by-step processes, everything that you need to get started or at least improve the revenue that you're generating currently. First though, I want you to understand why email marketing is actually important, because there's this myth online that email marketing is dead and no one even reads emails. That's not true. Think about how many times you open up your emails in a week to look for colleague emails or to look for work emails. Email marketing is no different. It's infiltrating that space that you read every single day. And here's some stats. Over 4.3 billion users use email marketing. So if you think it's dead, you're a minority. Here's the next thing. Email generates an average of $36 per $1 spent, which is a 36 ROI. Now, if you go to take a look at your ad spend right now, at best, you're probably, if even, generating a 2.1x ROAS if you're lucky. Even then, it's probably a lot lower. So 36x return on your investment is unheard of. And the simple reason is because email marketing is basically ownership. Instagram can ban you. Everything else, like ads, they can be shut down. Your ad metrics might change. Your cost per acquisition might change and fluctuate, but email remains, and you've already spent to acquire these customers. You own it. You can do whatever you want with it. And instead of having to consistently expend to get these people, instead the strategy is to try and get them to spend more and return more. And that's exactly what a retention system does, like email marketing. So let's talk about how to actually get people onto your list. What are some offers that work? How do you actually get them? As simple as possible, whenever you get a ESP, and an ESP is basically the tool that you use for email marketing. My preference specifically is Klaviyo if you're a D2C brand. If you're a B2B brand, then I recommend HubSpot. Anything outside of that is probably a waste of your time, but you can look at alternatives. I have a completely separate video about this. But let's just say that you have your ESP. What's going to happen is when people go to your website, they need to be met with an offer. And I'm not talking about an ad offer that you advertised when they found you originally. What you need to do is you need to make an appealing offer to capture their information so that it is yours to own. And most brands like Grüns, like Olipop, like all of these brands have these pop-up forms that look like this. And what's going to happen is they're enticing enough that you want to fill out your information, and from here that is your ownership over that contact. So what a lot of brands do is they have that pop-up that is built into the website, which is super easy to set up. I have another video on this, but essentially it is just something that you want to give them in exchange for their information. And think about it, no one is just openly giving their information unless there's some kind of incentive. So what most brands do is they try to give them a percentage or $1 off on their first order. So Grüns is very, very aggressive, and they have 50% plus on your first purchase, or $50 plus. And then other brands, as an alternative, they have some kind of lead magnet. So instead of just landing on the website and trying to give them $1 off or percentage off, what else you can do is you can give them some free value, whether that is a free workbook or some kind of downloadable content, a free course. Those are all lead magnets. So a lead magnet is essentially you have traffic, you lead them to a location, you incentivize capturing their information with some kind of value proposition. That can be an offer, or it can be something downloadable or tangible. So basically, you want to bribe them to get their information so you can retarget them. Think about it as free retargeting. Instead of you needing to run retargeting ads that cost you an arm and a leg, you now have retargeting at the tip of your fingers for completely free. So now that you have that, you need your tools to start. And like I mentioned, ideally you want some kind of Shopify and Klaviyo integration, or some kind of WooCommerce and Klaviyo integration. It depends on who your host is and your decisions around that. But the ESP you need to use is Klaviyo. For SMS, they have a built-in SMS functionality that I highly recommend, so everything works in one place. However, if for whatever reason SMS is not functional for you, I recommend exploring some other options. And then lastly, the only other tool that you really need at the start is either some kind of sign-up form tool like Alia Pop-ups, or you can go watch my other video about the best tools to download. But for now, you just need your ESP and you just need it to integrate to your website. That's it. Now, how do you actually grow your list? Yes, you have some traffic sources, but what are all the ways that you can get them onto your website to begin with? Now, growing your list is actually a pretty simple task. Number one, obviously running ads, getting that traffic over to the website to sign up to the form. That's basic, everyone knows that. But there is a second tactic that you can use, which is essentially that you can run some follower ads or you can run some kind of traffic to your social media. And every single person that follows you, you can set up a completely different integration with ManyChat. What will happen is these people will follow you and you can send an automatic message to them saying, hey, send us your email. We're going to send you a free offer or some free value. They're going to enter in the email address that will automatically populate over. And now you've got an automated social media following that then turns into an email list. Again, super, super powerful. The next way is actually doing collaborations with other brands. So the same way that you have referral partnerships where you kind of rely on your customers to refer other people to the brand, you have the same thing with partnerships. So let's just say that you are running a clothing brand and you want to do some kind of collaboration with a music festival. You're going to use their database to push out a newsletter, encouraging them to sign up to your websites and your newsletter for some kind of unique offer. That is a great way to go. Generally, you want to find very aligned branding or very aligned niches. So if you're a clothing brand, music festivals makes the most sense. If you're a wellness brand, finding someone with a yoga following is probably the next best bet. And of course, you can actually run lead generation ads specifically where you lead them to some kind of VSL where they have to enter their email to access their VSL or their training program or their free thing that you're offering. Those are the main ways to actually grow your list. But now that you have a list, what happens next? Well, the main thing is making sure that you have deliverability in place. Now, deliverability sounds like this big scary term, but it's actually really, really simple. Deliverability is essentially your credit score with providers. When you send an email, you're asking for permission to land in the inbox of either Gmail, Apple, Verizon Media. There's tons of different groupings, and you essentially just want that permission to land in their inbox. But it essentially works like credit. They have to trust you. They have to know that you're a reasonable provider that's landing in the inbox. The best way to do that is to make sure that you're authenticated and that you have your trust badge. And the best way to do that is to set up your DNS settings as correctly as possible. And what that is it's so simple. It sounds really complicated, but it is essentially a mark that you get authentication for. So it's like this trust factor. Imagine that you're selling a wellness brand. No one really trusts your wellness brand unless you have that badge of authenticity and certification that you're wellness related or that you have all of the specific degrees you need or you're FDA approved. Those badges is essentially all you need to make sure that you're landing in the inbox and not in spam. Because at the end of the day, let's say you send an email to 10,000 people and only 1,000 people see that. That is way less valuable than having a list of 2,000 people and 1,500 see it. So there's no point in optimizing for growth when you also don't optimize for deliverability. I have another video on this, but it's super simple. The easiest way to fix your deliverability or make sure it's in good standing is number one, make sure that you set up all your settings. I have a video about this. It is so simple. Step number two is warm up your list. And what that means is try to send just text only emails to the first few subscribers or to family and friends who you make open those emails. You can even set up some of your own emails. Maybe you have 5 different email addresses. Go put them on the list, open up your emails, engage with them. What's going to happen is Klaviyo or your ESP provider and those inbox providers are going to see that people are very proactively engaging with your emails. So it sets a really good precedent and it's going to indicate to them, hey, the same way that all the other algorithms work is, hey, this is getting a lot of watch time. This is being engaged with. We want to show it to more people. So let's put it in the inbox. That is essentially the signal that you're sending to those providers. So deliverability isn't this big scary thing. For the next 2 to 3 weeks, just send some plain text emails to your highest engaged list. You're going to see that your deliverability score increases and you start landing in more inboxes as long as you have your badges of trust in place. So set up your DNS, your SKIM, and a bunch of your other settings. Now that you got deliverability sorted, you got your list growth, you got your platform sorted, you pretty much have everything that you need. Now, the next step is where you generate hundreds of thousands of dollars for your brand. And it all starts with campaigns and flows. Now, here's a quick differentiator. In all of your email marketing, there's going to be 2 different things that you can do. Number one is sending weekly newsletters. These are your promotional campaigns. Let's say you do a product drop. let's say that you launch a new sale. That is a campaign. Now, on the other side of it, there's flows. What flows are, they're essentially evergreen email campaigns that are one-time setup. So let's just say you set up one campaign, and when someone performs a very specific action, like adding a product to their cart, you're going to send an evergreen series of automated emails that will go out to them with very specific messaging. So think of campaigns as your weekly output, and think of flows as this very action and behavior-based email sequence that goes automatically. And what that looks like is, let's say that I am a customer of yours and you're a wellness brand. I come to your website, I add maybe your capsules or your gummies into my basket. I get a little bit of cold feet and I leave because I'm not too happy about the pricing. I'm not too sure if I trust you yet. What you're going to do is you're going to send an action-based email straight away saying, hey, you just left these two specific items behind. You left our capsules and our gummies behind. What was the reason? Here is some of the reviews we have on it. Here's why you should absolutely follow through. And now I get that email and all of my pain points are dealt with. So I go back and I place that order. That is so valuable. Generally, we see a split where 70% of email marketing revenue, 60 to 70% of email marketing revenue comes from emails specifically, so campaigns, your weekly newsletters. And the other 30 to 40% of that revenue comes from your automated flows, which means you never have to lift a finger and you're going to get 30 to 40% extra revenue every single month just by having flows in place. So let's start with the flows, because this is something you're going to set up once and never have to touch again. Obviously, you'll need to make adjustments, but for the most part, you don't really have to edit it too much. So the main thing that drives your entire system is the welcome flow series. And what this is it's an automated series that triggers when someone finds your website and gives you over their information. Remember, we were talking about list growth. You want to capture their email, but you don't just want that email to sit there and do nothing. So you want a welcome sequence that targets everything that they need to know about your brand. They understand you better and they're more likely to place an order. So instead of you relying on your typical 2.1% conversion rate on Shopify, now you suddenly have a lever that you can pull that increases that dramatically and ensures that way more people are actually seeing your emails, seeing your branding, etc., etc. Because let's say that 10,000 people visit your website every single month. Or let's say even less. Let's say 100 people visit your website every single month and only 2.1% of them convert and actually place an order. You're only getting 2 people every single month to place an order. Whereas let's say you get 100 people coming to your website every month, and yes, you still have your conversion rate, but let's say you capture some of them and that adds an extra, let's just say 10% placed order rate because they're seeing specific messaging to them. Now suddenly you have 12 people entering into your placed order rates per month instead of the 2. And that, when compounded, makes a big difference. If you add an extra 1,000 people, that obviously becomes 20 people prior to having flows, and it ends up becoming 200 people after having flows. That makes a big difference to your revenue. So when it comes to talking about the welcome flow, I have a whole video about the structure of this, but it's essentially a sequence of emails that walks in through your branding. Because remember, most people that find you are finding you through your ads or socials, which is an impulse purchase. They don't trust you enough yet. So this welcome flow is intended to give them the information they need to make an educated decision to purchase, which essentially looks like a first email that is basically just saying, hey, welcome to the brand. Here is your offer that you signed up for. Now, here is also a ton of reviews. Here are the products that we offer, so we're doing the thinking for you. And here are some valuable tidbits on how our product works, so that you're doing all the thinking for them. They have these automated sequence messages, pretty much educating them without you needing to give them a call and tell them yourself. So all of that is all automated. Then what you want to do is you want to use this as an opportunity to explain more about the team, explain more about how you're different, and us versus them, where you show how your brand is different to any other brands. That is the welcome sequence. The next most important thing to set up is a cart abandonment and a checkout abandonment, which is essentially, like I explained earlier, if I come to your website and I take an additional high intention action, so I go into your website and I add something into my cart, I am now a very hot lead for you because I've shown my interest and I'm clearly taking additional actions than just taking a look around. I've shown that I'm interested in something, I've added it to my cart, and I want to ship it to myself. I'm filling in my billing information. But at this point, I kind of don't trust you yet, and so I leave. You want to make sure you capture that high intention. For a lot of our brands, this is the highest converting and highest revenue generating sequence across the board. For some brands, we're generating upwards of 100K per month just from this flow alone. And these are people that would have left otherwise. So we want to capture them, and we essentially want to show them the products that they left behind. We want to tell them to complete their order. We want to basically simplify the process for them. So this is essentially what that captures. The same goes for, so that's for the cart abandonment and the checkout abandonment. They are different and different intentions. Again, longer videos about this, but the cart abandonment is when I just add to my cart and I leave. The checkout abandonment is when I go all the way to the billing page. I fill in my information, I see the shipping costs, and I see all that information, and then I leave. So I'm just at the precipice of placing an order. You want some flows and sequences to capture that specific intention. That is the power of email marketing. Then you have your browse abandonments. This is when someone has actually viewed a product. They haven't taken an additional step to add it to their cart or anything like that. But maybe they found you through ads, and your one ad was leading them to your bestseller. It was an ad around your bestseller and an offer you have on that bestseller at the moment. You click on the ad, you go to that landing page. You never take additional action. You leave. You want to send automated sequences to those people that just viewed a product but never took additional action, because you want to prompt them to do that additional action. Then we have our last most important flow, which is the win back flow. Now, in your sequences, as you go along your email marketing journey, you're going to get some customers, right? And you probably already do. Maybe you have a small list base, or maybe you have a massive list base, and you have customers that come to you every single month, but then you also have people that placed an order and never became a repeat buyer. This win back flow is going to fix that for you. It's going to increase your repeat purchases, which is one of the biggest levers to pull to increase your revenue. And the way that that's going to look is when people essentially place an order and maybe your replenishment rate or your return rate is an average of 90 days. Then we want to make sure that we're targeting people that have surpassed that 90 days and are clearly no longer interested in our products. And this can happen for a few reasons. Maybe the product didn't give them the effects they were hoping for. Maybe they didn't use it correctly. Maybe there's an economic crisis and they don't see you as a necessary spend anymore. Whatever the reason is, you need to make sure that you have a win back flow, which sends them sequences of emails once that time period has passed and they haven't come back or returned. And what you're going to do is you're going to target them again. You're going to say, hey, I know you haven't been back in a while, so here's our best offer to try and blatantly bribe you to come back and try some of our other products. Maybe this one didn't work for you. Here's exactly how to make sure it works for you this time. Here are some products similar to the ones that you tried before. This works absolute wonders. So now you've got a trigger or you've got a system that targets new customers, number one. You have a system that targets people that are highly interested, number two. And number three, you have a system that targets people that are no longer interested, but once were. You already spent to acquire them. We need to have a system in place to try and recapture them. So those are the flows in a nutshell. Now, what I want to talk about is the next most important thing, and arguably the highest important lever that you can pull with email marketing, which is your weekly campaigns. Now, most brands do it incorrectly, especially if you're a D2C brand, where brands only send once a week, maybe twice a week if they're lucky, because there's this false pretense that sending too much is going to drain the list, it's going to tire people out, and no one's really interested. That is all BS. That is not true. That is a lie. That is misunderstanding. Campaigns are so powerful because they generate 70% of your overall revenue from email marketing. So you want to capitalize on that. So here are some campaign types that you can send. Number one, you can send an image-based email. Number two, you can send a plain text email. And number three, you can send a newsletter email. These are different. I've done a separate video about this, but they're essentially the categories that you can send. Now, the types of emails that you can send are way more. You can send educational emails that explain exactly how the products work. You can send FAQ emails that explain how the team is, how the company works behind the scenes. Number three, you can send product launch emails. So when you release a new product, maybe you want to talk more about a product that was already released. These are the kind of emails you can send. You can send bestseller emails. This is great because it does the thinking for the audience. What are some products that work really well? What are your bestsellers so other people can try them out? How are your products working for other people? That is incredibly valuable. You can send plain text founder-led emails. These are great because they're super personalized. It feels like a personal touch, and it feels like someone is actually reaching out to them. And what this looks like is it's essentially something like, hey, Just wanted to personally reach out to you. I'm Josh. I'm the founder of the brand, and I just wanted to reach out to you because, this month has been pretty intense lately. So I want to talk to you about how my routine looks when things get really tough, when I'm super busy. I feel like I don't have time to look after myself. This is basically how this routine works. And one of the main things is actually taking our sleep gummies. It works wonders for me, especially at the moment. Highly recommend it. So it's this personal touch. It's like a storytelling tied into upsell. And these work incredibly well. Now, there's a plethora of different campaigns you can send. You can focus on infographic sends. You can just make a very product focus. You can do storytelling. Whatever you want to send, try and figure out a healthy campaign sending schedule and send 3 to 4 times per week at minimum. Because if you think about it, the more people see from you, the more that they trust you and the more likely they are to buy, because they're getting the education they need to make that decision. And vice versa, whenever you send promotional emails, because that's kind of the last category of this piece of the puzzle. When you send promotional emails, you're encouraging those non-buyers to try and take a chance on you. You're encouraging people to place an order again where they maybe wouldn't have before. So you're increasing all of the levers of your revenue. Number 1, you're increasing first customer conversion. Number 2, you're increasing the average order value. And number 3, you're increasing the frequency at which these people are returning. So instead of returning once a month or once every 2 months, now they're returning every second week because there's such a good offer or there's such good information, they just have to try it. And that is essentially the encompassing realm of what email marketing looks like. It's not complicated. Number 1, you need the right tools, which is Klaviyo and Shopify. That's essentially it. Number 2, you need a list. And so you need to run these lead magnets. Number 3, you want to grow that list, which is the methods that we spoke about. Number 4, you want to set up flows and sequences so those people that have signed up get the right messaging at the right time. And number 5, you want to send campaigns. That is what it is. That's all it is. And if you want to go a step further, just as a bonus tip, within these ESPs, you can actually create different segments. And this is where email marketing gets fun. Email marketing gets fun when you send the right message to the right people. That's why we distinguish that we have flows. But in campaigns, you can do the same thing. You can create segments within your ESP where you can choose definitions or behaviors of those people in your sequence or in your audience. And so what we do is we have our overall list. A list is just a static set number of people. These are all the people that have subscribed to your list over all time. But within that list, there are males, there's females, there's people of different age groups, there's people that have bought gummies and only ever bought capsules, there's people that have engaged but never placed an order. So there's all these caveats of an audience within that one list size, and you can create segments based on that. And what it's going to do, it's going to pull that information from your Shopify and it's going to create these different behavior groups. So you can go in and you can target people that have placed an order multiple times. You can offer them exclusive discounts. So you can send them different benefits. You can send them early access emails. You can treat that audience with a little bit more care than the rest of your audience. Or you can find people that have only ever placed an order once. You want to try and send them cross-sells, upsells. You want to send them more information about the products. You want to try and get them invested in the brand. So different approaches for different segments. And that is how you're able to send a lot more than just once a week, because you're targeting different people with different messages at different times. So with that being said, that's all it takes. That is all you need for email marketing. Make sure that you have the deliverability in place. Make sure you have a list size to send to, and make sure you're utilizing all of these steps, because otherwise you're going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, keep in mind, this is what it looks like when you do email marketing correctly. This is a brand that we do over $1.5 million for just from email marketing every single month. And if they didn't have this in place, they would have lost $1.5 million every month. So if you're looking for a team to come in and execute email marketing for you, you're doing well over around $30,000 per month in overall revenue, then go down below, book in a call with us. We would love to work with you and make sure that this is taken off your plate so you're no longer losing tons of money every single month. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.